a struggling artist, a billionaire CEO. One blind date that changes everything. When Elena Martinez agrees to fill in for her sick roommate on a blind date, she has no idea she's about to meet Ryan Mitchell, Chicago's youngest tech billionaire, worth $200 million.
A what?
Starts as a simple favor, turns into a whirlwind romance that threatens to destroy them both. Greetings, fellow dreamers. This tale is filled with love, secrets, and a twist you'll never forget. It'd come along as we uncover it. The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Horizon Restaurant as Elena Martinez checked her reflection in the elevator's polished steel doors. Her hands trembled slightly as she smoothed down her simple black dress, the fabric. Suddenly feeling inadequate against the opulent backdrop of Chicago's most exclusive dining establishment. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, but the words felt hollow. She wasn't supposed to be here. This was supposed to be her roommate. Sarah's night. Sarah's carefully planned blind date with some tech guy she'd met online. But Sarah had fallen ill with food poisoning that morning, practically begging Elena to go in her place. "Just tell him I'll reschedule when I'm better," Sarah had pleaded between bouts of nausea. "Please, Elena, I've been talking to this guy for weeks. I can't just ghost him." Now, stepping into the restaurant's golden glow, Elena felt like an imposter. The hostess's cold appraisal made her skin burn with embarrassment as she was led through tables occupied by Chicago's elite, their jewelry catching the light like captured stars. At a corner table overlooking the city's glittering skyline sat a man in a charcoal suit, his dark hair perfectly styled, his attention focused on his phone. When he looked up, Elena's breath caught in her throat. He was devastatingly handsome, with sharp cheekbones and eyes the color of storm clouds. There was something else there, something wounded and guarded, that she recognized because she carried it too. "You must be Sarah," he said, rising from his chair with fluid grace. His voice was deep, cultured, carrying the weight of someone accustomed to being heard. "Actually, I'm Elena," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "We're Sarah's friend. She's sick and asked me to come explain." The man's expression shifted, a flicker of something crossing his features before settling into polite interest. "I see. Well, Elena, I'm Ryan, and since you've come all this way, would you consider staying? For dinner? It would be a shame to waste such a perfect evening." Something in his tone made her look at him more closely. There was loneliness there, carefully masked but unmistakable to someone who knew its shape intimately. Elena had spent 3 years rebuilding herself after her ex-fiancé had shattered her trust, leaving her for his business partner's daughter. She knew the look of someone hiding behind walls. "Suppose I could stay?" she heard herself saying, as Ryan pulled out her chair. His fingers accidentally brushed her shoulder, sending an unexpected jolt through her body. The touch lingered longer than necessary, and when their eyes met, she saw her own surprise reflected back at her. The conversation flowed like vintage wine, smooth and intoxicating. Ryan asked about her work as a children's book illustrator, with genuine curiosity, his eyes lighting up when she described bringing stories to life with watercolors and imagination. "There's something magical about creating worlds that exist only in someone's mind," she said, surprised by her own openness, making the invisible visible. "I understand that more than you know," Ryan replied, his voice carrying an undercurrent she couldn't quite decipher. When she asked about his work, he was vague. "Technology consulting." He said simply, "Nothing as creative as what you do." But Elena noticed things. The way the waiters treated him with unusual deference, how the sommelier appeared without being summoned, the quality of his watch, his shoes, the effortless confidence that suggested a man comfortable with power. As the evening progressed, she found herself leaning closer, drawn by the intensity in his voice when he spoke about books, about art, about the way city lights looked like fallen stars from this height, when he laughed at her stories about her eccentric art school professors. The sound was rich and genuine, transforming his face entirely. "I have to be honest," Ryan said, as dessert arrived untouched between them. "When I got the message about Sarah sending a friend, I almost left. I thought it would be awkward, obligatory, and now," Lena asked, her heart racing. "Now I'm thinking this might be the best mistake I've ever made." The words hung between them, charged with possibility and danger. Elena felt herself teetering, on the edge of something that could either save her or destroy what was left of her carefully reconstructed heart. When Ryan walked her to the taxi, the October air was crisp with the promise of winter. He turned to face her, his hand coming up to gently touch her cheek. "I'd like to see you again, Elena. Soon." Before she could respond, he leaned down and pressed his lips to hers in a kiss that was soft, tentative, and absolutely devastating. When they broke apart, Elena felt as if the ground had shifted beneath her feet. As the taxi pulled away, she looked back to see him standing on the sidewalk, hands in his pockets, watching her disappear into the night. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Thank you for the most honest evening I've had in years. Sleep well, Elena." Back in her small apartment, she sat at her easel, staring at a half-finished illustration of a princess in a tower. But instead of working, she found herself at her laptop, curiosity getting the better of her. She typed Ryan Mitchell's Chicago Technology into the search bar, not really expecting to find anything. The results made her blood run cold. Ryan Mitchell, CEO and founder of Titan Industries. Net worth, $200 million. Chicago's youngest tech billionaire. Lena stared at the screen, at photos of Ryan in designer tuxedos at charity galas, headlines calling him the golden boy of Silicon Midwest, at pictures of him with a stunning blonde identified as his ex-girlfriend, socialite Victoria Blackwood. Her phone rang, shattering the silence. It was Sarah. "How did it go? Was he nice?" "Sarah," Elena said, her voice hollow. "Did you know your blind date is worth $200 million? 5 days passed before Ryan called and Elena spent, each one questioning everything about their encounter. When his name finally appeared on her phone screen, her heart hammered against her ribs like a caged bird. "Elena, it's Ryan. I was hoping you'd have dinner with me again. Somewhere less pretentious this time." "We need to talk first," she said, gripping the phone tighter. "I know who you are." The silence stretched long enough that Elena wondered if he'd hung up, and he finally spoke. His voice was carefully controlled. "And how does that make you feel?" "Like I was part of some elaborate game," she said, unable to keep the hurt from her voice. "Like you were slumming it with the poor artists for entertainment." "God, no." The words came out sharp, almost pained. "Lena, that night was the first time in years I felt like myself. Not the CEO, not the billionaire. Everyone wants something. From just Ryan. Then why lie? Because the truth ruins everything. It always does." The raw honesty in his voice cracked something open in her chest. Elena had spent 3 years learning to trust her instincts about people, and every instinct told her he was telling the truth. "Cook for me," she said suddenly. "At your place. If you want me to see the real you, show me your world without the performance." "You'd do that, even knowing what you know?" "I'm terrified," she admitted, "but yes." Ryan's penthouse occupied the entire top floor of one of Chicago's most exclusive buildings. When the private elevator opened directly into his living space, Elena stepped into a world of floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, and art that probably cost more than most people's houses. But it was the loneliness that struck her most. For all its luxury, the space felt hollow, unlived in. "It's like a beautiful prison. It's not really a home, is it?" she said softly. Ryan, who had been watching her reaction carefully, seemed to deflate slightly. "No, it's not." He moved to the kitchen, rolling up his sleeves to reveal strong forearms. As he cooked, Elena wandered the space, noting the absence of personal photos, the expensive but sterile decor. The only hint of personality was a shelf of well-worn books and a small watercolor painting that looked oddly familiar. "Where did you get this?" she asked, pointing to the painting. Ryan looked over from where he was stirring risotto, a little gallery in Lincoln Park. "The artist signed it E. Martinez. I bought it because it reminded me of something I'd lost." Elena's heart stopped. She had painted that piece 3 years ago, right after her engagement ended. It was a lone figure walking through a storm, but in the distance, barely visible, was a patch of clear sky. "That's my painting," she whispered. The wooden spoon clattered to the floor. Ryan stared at her, then at the painting, understanding dawning on his face. "You're E. Martinez?" I painted that the day my fiancé left me for someone else. Richer, more connected, more suitable. They looked at each other across the pristine kitchen, the weight of coincidence settling between them like destiny. Ryan moved toward her slowly, as if approaching a wounded animal. Elena. Don't, she said, but her voice lacked conviction.
Oh.
Don't make this mean something it doesn't. What if it already means something? His hand came up to cup her face, and Elena felt herself leaning into the touch despite every warning bell in her head. When he kissed her this time, it wasn't gentle. It was desperate, hungry, full of 3 years of loneliness and the terrifying possibility that maybe, just maybe, they had found something real. They broke apart, breathing hard, Elena's hands fisted. In his shirt? This is crazy, she whispered. The good kind of crazy, Ryan replied, his forehead resting against hers. Over dinner, the walls came down piece by piece. Ryan told her about growing up poor, about building his company from nothing, about the crushing isolation that came with success. Elena shared her own story of betrayal, of rebuilding her life one careful piece at a time. I haven't been with anyone since Victoria, Ryan admitted as they sat on his couch, the city sprawling below them. I couldn't trust their motives. Haven't been with anyone since Marcus, Elena replied. I couldn't trust my own judgment. What are we doing, Elena? Before she could answer, her phone rang. The caller ID made her blood freeze. Marcus Hartwell. I should take this, she said, standing abruptly. Elena, baby, I've been trying to reach you. Marcus's familiar voice poured through the speaker, and she saw Ryan's expression darken as he overheard. What do you want, Marcus? I made a mistake. Leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life. Cynthia and I were over. I want you back. Elena felt the room spinning. 3 years she had waited to hear those words. 3 years of wondering if she hadn't been enough, if she'd ever be enough for someone to choose her. I can't do this now, she said. I know I hurt you, but we were good together. We can be good again. I'm different now. Lena looked at Ryan, who was standing frozen by the window, his jaw clenched. In his eyes, she saw the same fear she felt, the same knowledge that fairy tales didn't happen to people like them.
Dad.
I need time to think, she told Marcus and hung up. The silence stretched between her and Ryan like a chasm. He's coming back, Ryan said, his voice flat. Yes, and you're going to give him another chance. Elena's heart broke at the resignation in his voice, the way he was already pulling away, protecting himself. I don't know, she said honestly. 3 years ago, he was my entire world. I thought we'd spend our lives together, and now. She looked at this man who had somehow become essential to her in the span of 2 evenings, who had shown her painting means something, who cooked her dinner and kissed her like she was precious. Now I don't know what's real anymore. Ryan nodded. Slowly, his face closing off. Maybe you should figure that out before we go any further. As Elena gathered her things to leave, Ryan caught her hand. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I think you deserve someone who chooses you the first time. He doesn't need to lose you to realize what they had. The elevator doors closed between them, and Elena pressed her back against the wall as tears she'd been holding back finally fell. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. I'm flying back to Chicago tomorrow. We need to talk. But it was the message that came 5 minutes later that shattered her completely. If he makes you happy, I'll understand. But if he hurts you again, I'll destroy him. That's not a threat, Elena. It's a promise. It was from Ryan. Marcus looked exactly the same as he had 3 years ago, standing in the doorway of Elena's apartment with flowers and that boyish smile that had once made her forget everything else. Tall, blonde, handsome in the way that came from good genes and better dentistry, he was everything she had once thought she wanted. You look beautiful, Elena, he said, stepping inside without invitation. I've missed you so much. Elena wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly feeling exposed in her own home. Can't just show up here and expect everything to go back to the way it was. I know I have to earn your trust back. Marcus moved closer, his familiar cologne filling the small space. But what we had was real. It was love. What we had was you stringing me along for 2 years while you figured out if someone better would come along, Lena said, surprised by the strength in her own voice. And someone did. Cynthia was a mistake. I realized at the moment I married. Her? You married her? The words hit Elena like a physical blow. In all his calls and messages, Marcus had never mentioned a marriage. It lasted 6 months. Elena, I was an idiot. I chose money and connections over love, and it destroyed me. You were the best thing in my life, and I threw it away for what? A trust fund and a woman who never loved me. Elena's phone lying on. The kitchen counter lit up with a message. Even from across the room, she could see Ryan's name on the screen. Marcus followed her gaze. Is that him? The billionaire Sarah mentioned? His name is Ryan. Elena, be smart about this. Guys like him, they don't end up with girls like us. We're entertainment, not endgame. The words were like ice water, echoing every fear Elena had whispered to herself in the dark. But they also ignited something fierce inside her. Girls like us, she repeated dangerously. Come on, Elena. You're talented and beautiful, but you work out of a studio apartment, illustrating children's books for grocery money. He's worth hundreds of millions. You think he's going to introduce you to his board of directors? He'll take you to charity galas, where people donate more in one night than you make in a year? Every word was a knife twist, and Marcus knew it. He'd always been gifted at finding her insecurities and pressing them until she doubted herself. Maybe you're right, she said quietly. Marcus smiled, thinking he'd won. I know I am. We make sense together, Elena. We always did. He moved to kiss her, and Elena let him, searching for some echo of the feeling she'd once had. His lips were warm, familiar, safe, but they weren't Ryan's. They didn't make her feel like she was flying and falling at the same time. When Marcus pulled away, he was smiling. See? We still have it. Elena's phone buzzed again. This time she walked over and read the message. I know he's there. I can see his car from my office window. Whatever you decide, just know that tonight changed everything for me. She looked out her window toward the gleaming towers of downtown, wondering if Ryan was looking back. I need time, she told Marcus. How much time? I don't know. This is all happening so fast. Marcus nodded, but she could see the calculation in his eyes. I'll wait. But Elena, don't take too long. I won't wait forever this time. After he left, Elena sat on her couch staring at her phone. She had 2 messages from Ryan now. The second one simply said, I'm sorry. Shouldn't have said I'd destroy him. It's not who I want to be with you. She was still staring at the phone when it rang. Ryan's name flashed on the screen. Are you okay? He asked without preamble. No, she said honestly. I'm confused and scared, and I don't know what I'm doing. Can I see you, Ryan? ... Just to talk. Nothing else. I promise. Against her better judgment, she agreed. An hour later, they walked along the lakefront in silence, the October wind whipping off the water. Finally, Ryan spoke. He wants you back. Yes, and you're considering it. Elena stopped walking. 3 years ago, he was everything to me. I planned our wedding, picked out baby names, imagined growing old together. When he left, it destroyed me. But when he kissed me tonight, all I could think about was you. Ryan turned to face her, hope and pain warring in his expression. Elena ... I'm terrified, she continued. You're right that we're from different worlds. What happens when the novelty wears off? When you realize I don't fit into your life? What if you do? What if you fit perfectly, and what if I don't? What if Marcus is right, and I'm just entertainment until you find someone more suitable? Was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the dark water. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. When I was 12, my father left my mother for his secretary. Said he'd outgrown us, that we were holding him back. I swore I'd never do that to someone. He turned to Elena, his eyes reflecting the city lights. I won't lie to you and say our differences don't matter. They do. My world can be cruel to people it sees as outsiders, but Elena, I've spent 10 years in that world and it's never felt like home. One evening with you felt more real than anything I've experienced in the last decade. So what are you saying? I'm saying maybe the question isn't whether you fit into my world. Maybe it's whether we can build a new one together. Elena felt tears on her cheeks, though she hadn't realized she was crying. That's terrifying. The best things usually are. Ryan reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he cupped her face in his hands. I'm not him, Elena. I won't leave you for someone shinier, someone easier. But I can't compete with 3 years of history of imagined futures. You have to decide what you want. I want you, she whispered, the words torn from somewhere deep. Inside her, God help me, I want you. This kiss was different from the others. It was a choice, a commitment, a line crossed that couldn't be uncrossed. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. There's something I need to tell you, Ryan, said, his forehead pressed against hers. What? I know Marcus. We've done business together. Consulted for one of my companies 2 years ago. Elena pulled back, confusion clouding her features. What? He knows exactly who I am. This isn't coincidence, Elena. He found out about us somehow. Pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Marcus's sudden return, his knowledge about Ryan, the timing of it all. He's using me, Elena said. The words bitter as poison. I think so. But Elena, I need you to know something else. She looked at him, seeing something dark and dangerous in his expression. I lied about not knowing he was married. I knew. I also know his wife didn't leave him. He left her when he found out she was pregnant. She lost the baby, had a breakdown. Her family destroyed his reputation in New York. That's why he's back in Chicago. Elena felt the world tilting beneath her feet. He is a child. Elena, I'm sorry. Should have told you sooner, but I was afraid you'd think I was manipulating. You? Are you? Ryan's silence was answer enough. Elena stepped back, her heart breaking all over again. So both of you are using me. Marcus to rehabilitate his image by winning back his perfect ex-fiancé, and you two what? Prove you can steal me away from him? That's not how this started, but it's what this is now. Elena turned and walked away, leaving Ryan standing alone by the dark water. As she reached her building, her phone buzzed with messages from both men. She deleted them without reading them. In her apartment, she sat at her easel and began to paint the canvas filled with dark colors, with figures reaching for each other across an impossible distance. With love that looked like war, and war that felt like love, at midnight her phone rang. It wasn't Marcus or Ryan. It was Sarah. Elena, oh my God, you need to see the news. The headline on the Chicago Tribune's website made Elena's blood turn to ice. Tech billionaire's love triangle turns ugly. Ryan Mitchell's ex-fiancé speaks. Out. But it wasn't just any ex. Fiancé was Victoria Blackwood, the stunning blonde from the photos Elena had seen. And according to the article, she and Ryan had been engaged just 6 months ago. Elena's hands shook as she read Victoria's interview. Ryan led me to believe we had a future together. We were planning our wedding when he suddenly became distant, secretive. I found out he was seeing other women. When I confronted him, he ended our engagement via text message. The article included photos. Ryan and Victoria at charity galas, looking perfect together. Ryan with his arm around Victoria at what appeared to be an engagement party. A close-up of Victoria's tear-stained face as she spoke to reporters. I'm not trying to ruin his reputation. Victoria was quoted as saying, I just want people to know the truth about who Ryan Mitchell really is behind closed doors. Elena's phone buzzed. What? Marcus? Did you see the news? Elena, I'm so sorry. I know. This must be devastating. Before she could respond, another call came through. Ryan. She declined it. Sarah arrived 20 minutes later with wine and tissues. But Elena wasn't crying. She was thinking. Something doesn't add up, she said, pacing. Her small living room? Elena, honey, maybe you're in denial. No, listen. Ryan told me about Victoria weeks ago. Said they'd broken up over a year ago. Why would she suddenly come forward now? Maybe seeing him with someone new brought back old pain. Elena's phone rang again. Ryan, for the 10th time, this time she answered. Is it true? She said without preamble. Elena, please let me explain. Is it true? Were you engaged 6 months ago? A pause. Yes. The word hit her like a physical blow. You lied to me. I lied about the timing. But everything else, about why. We broke up about how I felt about her. That was all true. How am I supposed to believe anything you say now? 'Cause I love you." The words hung in the air between them, and Elena felt her heart breaking all over again. "You don't get to say that now," she whispered. "Not like this. Elena, please. Meet me somewhere. Let me explain what really happened. I can't trust you. I can't trust anyone." She hung up and turned off her phone. The next morning brought worse news. Paparazzi photos had emerged of Elena leaving Ryan's building 3 nights ago, along with speculation about her identity. Someone had leaked information about the blind date, about her relationship with Marcus, painting her as a gold digger. Jumping from one wealthy man to another, Elena's phone had been buzzing constantly since she'd turned it back on. Reporters wanting statements, strangers calling her names, clients questioning whether they wanted to work with someone involved in such a scandal. She was hiding in her apartment when the knock came. She expected it to be a reporter, but when she looked through the peephole, she saw Marcus. "I brought coffee," he said when she opened the door. "I figured you might need a friend." Elena let him in, grateful for any kindness in the storm her life had become. "This is a nightmare," she said, sinking onto her couch. Marcus sat beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "It'll blow over. These things always do. My career is ruined. 3 clients have already canceled their contracts. Maybe it's time for a fresh start anyway. Come with me to San Francisco. I got a job offer there, tech consulting for a startup. We could start over, away from all this mess." Lena looked at him. This man who had once been her entire world was offering her exactly what she'd dreamed of 3 years ago. A second chance, a life together, an escape from the chaos. "What about your pregnant ex-wife?" she asked quietly. Marcus's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. "What about her?" Ryan told me. "About the baby, about why you really left New York." "Ryan told you a lot of things." "Apparently, look how that worked out." Elena studied Marcus's face, seeing something she'd never noticed before. A calculating quality that made her skin crawl. "It's true, isn't it? You left your pregnant wife?" Marcus stood abruptly. "It's between me and Cynthia. Ancient history. The baby died, Marcus. Your child died, and you left her when she needed you most. She would have left me eventually anyway. The pregnancy was a mistake." The casual cruelty in his voice made Elena recoil. How had she never seen this side of him before? "You need to leave," she said. "Elena, don't let Mitchell poison you against me. He's using you to get back at me for something." "Get back at you for what?" Marcus's mask slipped entirely. "I may have made some comments about his new girlfriend, about how she was clearly only interested in his money." "Guys talk, Elena." "Locker room stuff. You've been talking about me? To other people?" "Not maliciously. Just guy talk about how quickly you moved from dating a small-time consultant to billionaire shopping." Elena felt sick. "Get out, Elena. ... Get out." After Marcus left, Elena sat in her quiet apartment, finally understanding the full scope of what had happened to her. She'd been a pawn in someone else's game from the very beginning. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Meet me at Millennium Park, the Bean. Come alone. There's something you need to know about both of them, friend." Elena stared at the message. Every rational part of her brain said it was a trap, another manipulation. But she'd already lost everything that mattered. What did she have left to lose? An hour later, she stood in front of the famous sculpture, its mirrored surface reflecting a distorted version of herself and the city around her. A woman approached from behind. Elena. She turned to face Victoria Blackwood. Even without makeup, even with exhaustion etched into her features, Victoria was breathtakingly beautiful. "What?" "Before you say anything," Victoria said, "I need you to know that everything in that interview was a lie." Elaine's world tilted again. "What?" "I was never engaged to Ryan. We dated for 3 months over a year ago. It ended amicably when we both realized we were better as friends." "Then why?" "Because Marcus paid me $50,000 to say those things." Elena sank onto a nearby bench, her legs suddenly unable to support her. "Came to me 2 weeks ago," Victoria continued. "Said he needed to break you and Ryan up, that it was for your own good, that Ryan would eventually hurt you worse." than he ever could. Why are you telling me this now? Victoria sat beside her. Because I saw the photos of you in the papers this morning. You look like I felt when my father manipulated my life for his political career. And because Ryan called me this morning. What did he say? That he loved you too much to let you? Think he was something he wasn't. God, he offered me $100,000 to tell the truth publicly, to clear both your names. Elena looked at Victoria. Did you take it? No, I'm doing this for free. Some things are worth more than money. Victoria pulled out her phone and showed Elena a series of text messages from Marcus, including the contract for their fake story and wire transfer confirmations. Elena, I need you to know something else. Ryan never lied to you about loving you. But he did lie about something important. What? He's sick. The words hit Elena like a freight train. What, cancer? Early stage, completely treatable, but he'll need surgery soon. He didn't want you to feel obligated to stay with him out of pity. Elena felt tears streaming down her face. How do you know this? Because he asked me to look after you if something happened to him. This made me promise that if you chose Marcus, I wouldn't interfere. But that if Marcus turned out to be the bastard Ryan suspected he was, I'd make sure you knew the truth. Elena's phone buzzed. A message from Ryan. I know you probably never want to see me again, but I'm at Northwestern Memorial, room 418. The surgery is tomorrow morning. Understand if you don't come, but I needed you to know I meant everything I said. I love you. Victoria stood up. I'm holding a press conference in an hour. I'm going to tell everyone the truth about Marcus paying me to lie. Your name will be cleared. Why would you do that for me? Victoria smiled sadly. Because everyone deserves a chance at real love. And because Ryan Mitchell is the best man I know, even if he's too stubborn to ask for help when he needs it most. As Victoria walked away, Elena sat alone, with the city's reflection warped around her in the sculptures. Surface. She had a choice to make, and this time she knew exactly what it had to be. Elena ran through the hospital corridors, her heart pounding against her ribs as she searched for room 418. She'd spent the last hour in traffic, watching Victoria's press conference on her phone as Marcus's carefully constructed lies crumbled on live television. The reporter's questions had been brutal. Mr. Hartwell, do you have any comment on Victoria Blackwood's claims that you paid her to fabricate stories about Ryan Mitchell? Marcus's face had gone pale, then red with rage as he'd stormed away. From the cameras without answering. Now standing outside Ryan's hospital room at 11 p.m., Elena felt like she was about to step off a cliff. Through the small window, she could see him lying in the narrow bed, looking younger and more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. His dark hair was mussed, and there were dark circles under his eyes. She knocked softly. Come in. His voice was rough, tired. When Ryan saw her, his expression went through several changes. Surprise, hope, fear, resignation. You came, he said simply. Victoria told me everything. Lena moved closer to the bed, her hands trembling. About Marcus. Paying her. About the lies. About... She couldn't say the word cancer. About me being sick. Ryan's voice was matter of fact. I wanted to tell you. Started to. 12 times. Why didn't you? Ryan tried to sit up straighter and winced. Elena moved instinctively to help him. Adjusting his pillows, the small act of care seemed to break something inside him. I'm tired of people looking at me like I'm dying, he said quietly. Because I wanted you to choose me for who I am, not because you felt sorry for me. Ryan, you idiot. Tears were streaming down her face now. Do you think I'm that shallow? That I'd only stay with you out of pity? I don't know what to think anymore, he admitted. These past few days, watching you pulled into this mess because of me, seeing your name dragged through the mud. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe you'd be better off with someone who doesn't come with all this baggage. Elena sat on the edge of his bed, taking his hand in hers. His fingers were cold, and she could feel the IV line under the tape on his wrist. Tell me about the cancer, she said softly. Ryan looked away. It's nothing dramatic. Thyroid cancer, caught early. The surgery tomorrow will remove the tumor, then some radiation therapy. The doctors say I have a 95% chance of complete recovery, and the 5%, Elena? Tell me. There's a small chance it could come back. Smaller. Chance the surgery could damage my vocal cords or affect other functions. But the odds are good. Elena squeezed his hand. Why didn't you trust me with this? 'Cause everyone I've ever cared about has left when things got complicated. My father, when things got tough financially. Victoria, when the press started scrutinizing our relationship. Business partners, when my company hit rough patches. His voice grew quiet. I couldn't bear the thought of you leaving too. I'm not going anywhere, Elena said fiercely. What about Marcus? Elena laughed, but there was no humor in it. Marcus showed me exactly who he is tonight. A man who abandons pregnant wives, who pays people to lie, who manipulates everyone around him for his own gain. I can't believe I ever thought I loved him. Ryan's eyes searched her face. And what about me? Can you forgive me for lying about Victoria, for not telling you about the cancer? Can you forgive me for doubting you? For almost choosing him? Instead of answering, Ryan reached up and cupped her face with his free hand. I love you, Elena. I know it's crazy. I know we've only known each other for 2 weeks. But I love you more than I've ever loved anyone. I love you too, she whispered, and then she was kissing him, tasting salt from both their tears. When they broke apart, Ryan rested his forehead against hers. What happens now? How we figure it out together. The surgery, the recovery, the media circus, all of it. It won't be easy. My world, it can be brutal. Then we'll change your world. Make it kinder, more real. Ryan smiled, and for the first time since she'd met him, it reached his eyes completely. I like the sound of that. Elena stayed with him through the night, curled up in the uncomfortable hospital chair, holding his hand as he slept fitfully. Before the surgery, at dawn, she watched the sunrise paint the city golden through the hospital window and knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. The surgery was successful. Ryan's voice was hoarse for weeks afterward, and the radiation therapy made him tired and sick. But Elena was there for all of it, bringing him soup when he couldn't keep anything else down, reading to him when the medication made him too drowsy to focus, holding him when the fear of recurrence kept him awake at night. 3 months later, they were sitting in Ryan's penthouse. Elena had slowly transformed from a sterile showpiece into something that felt like home. Her paintings covered the walls now, splashes of color and life that made the space warm and welcoming. Her easel sat by the windows where the light was best. I have something for you, Ryan said, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Elena's heart stopped. Ryan, before you say anything, let me explain. He opened the box to reveal not a diamond, but a simple silver band with a small, painted ceramic charm. I commissioned this from a jewelry artist in Lincoln Park. The charm is a tiny reproduction of the painting I bought from you. The one of the figure walking through the storm toward clear skies. Elena felt tears gathering in her eyes as she looked at the delicate piece. I'm not asking you to marry me, Ryan continued. Not yet. We've got time to figure that out. But I am asking you to build a life with me. It's a real life, with fights and make-up kisses, and burned dinners and Sunday mornings in bed reading the paper. What about your world? Charity galas and board meetings and people who think I'm not good enough. Then we'll find new people, better people. Elena, I spent 32 years trying to fit into a life that never felt right. These past 3 months with you have been the most real I've ever felt. Elena held out her hand, and Ryan slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. I have something for you too, she said, standing and walking to her easel. She turned the canvas around to reveal a painting she'd been working on in secret. It showed 2 figures standing together on a cliff, looking out at a vast ocean. The sky above was stormy, but between the clouds, streams of sunlight broke through, illuminating a path across the water. It was a painting about hope, about choosing love despite the risks, about finding your way home. It's us, she said simply. Ryan stood and wrapped his arms around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder as they looked at the painting together. What should we call it? He asked. Lena leaned back against his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong against her back. Outside the windows, Chicago glittered in the evening light, full of possibilities and promises yet to be made. The right choice, she said. And for the first time in either of their lives, they both knew exactly where they belonged. The end.